Okay, Emmy fans, we have gathered here the High Council of Gold Derby's brilliant staff editors, all of us full-timers and old veterans of this game and this Emmy war, to talk about Best Limited Series and the Best TV Movie category and the corresponding acting races. And let's just start out with Best Limited Series. Marcus, everybody has People versus O.J. Simpson to win. What does that mean? No one else need apply?
I think it's going to be really, really close, closer than people think, between OJ and Fargo.
Really?
Just looking at we're doing the Gold Derby TV Awards right now, and there's still a couple days to vote if you guys haven't voted, so go and do that. But I've noticed, I don't know about you guys, Daniel and Chris, but I've noticed it's almost split between those two shows. I haven't counted, so I don't know which one is winning. I wouldn't reveal that, of course, but it's almost like they're essentially tied. Everything else is just at the bottom, fighting for scraps.
Wow.
Yeah, they're both getting a lot of acting support too. I think those are the two, and they're both on FX, which is kind of fun. They have that kind of internal battle over the network.
Well, let's talk about that. Is this finally, Daniel, Sarah Paulson's year? The poor dear, she's lost 4 times so far. And we keep saying, when we see her, we say, she tells us with a smile and a giggle that we are her curse, kind of in a way, because we keep predicting that she would win, and she loses. So should she be skeptical this time, because we've got her winning this by a landslide?
She should always be skeptical just because of her luck and because of our track record predicting her. This year, though, it seems like her best. She's in a movie miniseries frontrunner. She is playing a real-life character, which is always helpful. And I think her main competition, like before their programs came out, who I was in, Audra McDonald in Lady Day, she won a Tony for that role, but that film kind of came and went, and I don't know how people actually saw it. In Confirmation,
that's not her main competition. Kerry Washington for Confirmation is her main competition, right, Daniel? Rethink that.
Yeah, that's. No. I was, before Confirmation came out, I was thinking, Kerry Washington was one of her top competitors, but I don't think that film caught hold critically or in terms of the audience as much as it could have. So I really think I really think Sarah Paulson. It's as good a chance as any for her, unless the Fargo support is strong enough to pull in Kirsten Dunst. Although Kirsten Dunst doesn't have that kind of serious actress cred, the veteran cred that a lot of these other actors have built up.
Paul, would you straighten Daniel out? He needs some guidance here from us old coots. Kerry Washington is really in this race. I know that she has had no real traction with Scandal. She got in a couple times for nominations, but this is entirely different. This is people are rooting for her.
Mm-hmm.
Real life. Take it from here. Kerry's really in this race. Do you agree or not?
I think that she's a viable threat. The reason I'm hesitant about Sarah Paulson is because she's never won. She keeps getting nominated and doesn't win, and so there's some disconnect between her and voters. And I think that what she did do, I think, with her portrayal of Marcia Clark was humanize her in a way that I think, Marcia Clark, for those old enough, the ones of us that can remember the trial. I mean, she became a cartoon figure. She was sort of pilloried. She was, caricatured. And so I think that Sarah Paulson showed the heart, showed us that she was the person behind that sort of portrait. But I do think with Kerry Washington, and it's interesting to what Marcus was saying in one of our slugfests about variety series, HBO, the HBO factor. That the TV Academy is made up of people that work in the TV industry, and there's a lot of people that work at HBO in the TV industry who belong to the Academy, and they get behind their product.
That's true, but I don't think that's the reason HBO keeps winning everything, and then they won everything last year, of course. But I think it's yes, they have a voter edge. That's often and overquoted, I think. But I just think they have a cachet and a cool factor that is hard to beat. It's still HBO is the Tiffany of TV production in the minds of the professionals in this town.
That and what Paul's saying is true, but I think it's more impactful on the program side, where all those executives and secretaries and all those people can vote. They don't get to vote for acting.
That's true.
I think it's Sarah's to lose, but we've seen her do that plenty of times. So it's one of if the category shakes out like we all think, and there's really only like 7 ladies that really have a shot at getting these 6 slots, in my opinion. If you look at the ballot, those 6 are going to be phenomenal. It's the ones you've mentioned, plus you throw in Felicity Huffman and Lily Taylor from American Crime. That is a wonderful category if that's the 6 it turns out to be.
Anybody else have some thoughts here? I think Kerry Washington can win because I think the whole Anita Hill thing is in her favor. If the Marcia Clark point that Paul's making is a factor, and I think it is. I think it's a fascinating factor to mention the fact that Marcia Clark was ridiculed throughout the trial and pilloried for in real life may hurt her. I think in the same way that Anita Hill has been vindicated since in recent years, and people are really rooting for her now, and I think that Kerry benefits from that. There's this, if rooting factors win awards, and they do, Anita Hill is somebody who really, this would be like the crowning vindication of this woman who's been seeking justice for so long, and Clarence Thomas is not a popular guy in Hollywood, shall we say, by any fact. Anyway, I just think it's more of a factor than, I agree that Sarah will likely win this. I saw Marcia Clark, by the way, interviewed on C-SPAN the other day, talking about Sarah Paulson's performance, and it was very touching to see how Marcia was just so appreciative of this sympathetic role that how she's finally thrilled to be portrayed in a sympathetic way after all the abuse that poor woman's taken through the years.
We predicted Sarah to win for Asylum and for Freak Show. And, at the end of the day, maybe just they didn't like the horror genre. I mean, I realize Kathy Bates won, I realize Jessica Lange won, and James Cromwell, but this is a very, very serious role and a very serious
2 heads in Freak Show. Voters just poo-poo that, of course, yeah.
Well, and look at who she's lost to. You mentioned, she's lost to some like Hollywood legends when you throw in Kathy Bates, Ellen Burstyn. I mean, she doesn't really have that in this category in terms of they're very well respected, but nobody is in this category that you would put in that legendary Oscar-winning kind of position.
If it comes down to a popular ballot, would Kerry Washington win? She's extremely popular, not just with Scandal, but she has a movie career and she's just well liked around the board. I could see that happening.
Marcus, you and Daniel both have Kirsten Dunst in second place. She's certainly got an esteemed film career and all of that. I could see her winning too. I think she's really in the hunt. I don't think Audra McDonald's going to win. I don't think anyone saw Lady Day at the Emerson Bar and Grill. I think that's the problem there. Felicity
they were lucky.
Oh no! But hey, to your HBO point. To your HBO point, it was on HBO. It's the role that won her a record 6th Tony.
And normally, that would matter, but not.
All right. Now, what about?
I do think it helps, though. That is a good point. It helps Sarah in a way that there's 2 HBO ladies.
Oh, that's cool. Interesting.
And potentially 2 American Crime ladies. If that's that might make Kirsten Dunst her best competition.
Oh, but can't we please have Lady Gaga in there? And then,
hey, I think Marcus was as my fellow American Horror Story fan friend, and so we often, he was among the people going, "Oh, it's just this year, it's just terrible. I can't watch it." And I didn't fall for that at all. I know it was bad this year, but I thought it was just like train wreck bad, so bad it was good. And Lady Gaga was absolutely in the most campy, ridiculous way. Of course, she plays this kind of diva-ish vampire, sexual predator, and it was almost kind of like a real with elements of the real Lady Gaga. I thought it was just great.
I won't say it's bad. I'll just say it was my least favorite of the American Horror Story seasons. But it's gonna get. I think it's gonna get a lot of tech nominations. I think
Sure.
Dennis O'Hare is gonna get in. I think Sarah Paulson will get in for that. I think Kathy Bates could get in. So it's still gonna attract. It typically does 17 or 19 nominations. It's gonna get more than 15.
It deserves them too. It was really up and down and crazy, the twists and turns it took. But on the other hand, that's right. Also, Gold Derby got murdered in this year's episode. We must love it for that. They killed us off in real life Gold Derby. I think it was one of our bloggers. They said in one episode for real. So we love them all the more for that.
With a bloody Oscar.
Beaten to death with an Oscar, and it was shoved up the backside of the dead person too. I mean, what a way to go. Felicity Huffman, can she win? Anybody?
I think of the two that Chris mentioned, Lily Taylor has a better shot. But Felicity was good too. I mean, she got in last year for season 1, and this is kind of where it's like an anthology where the same actors come back and play different characters. But Lily Taylor had the whole, the personal story with her son being attacked, and she's the one that would get my vote between those two.
What about Julianne Hough from Grease Live?
What about her? It was
nominated. Could she? She's in some predictions.
She is. I think that there's a supporting performance that merits consideration. I think that it was a real achievement on that whole production to be done live in the face of a storm with outdoor sets. I mean that they're to be lauded. I think that Julianne Hough, that to be even talked about is sort of enough of a victory. I mean, it's
you're being too Canadian. The answer is no. In other words, okay.
Competition's just too tough this year. I mean, Nicole Kidman got in last year for that crazy Grace of Monaco, so that was the level of competition last year, but it's a little steeper this year.
Okay, so what about the supporting? Have we finished?
We didn't do lead actor. That's
I'm sorry.
That race is phenomenal.
Okay, size it up for us, Chris. Go ahead.
Well, forever I just assumed Bryan Cranston would win, and he certainly might. I mean, when I even just saw the pictures of him as Lyndon Johnson that they for the HBO production, I turned to Marcus that day. I said, I thought it was Lyndon Johnson. I didn't even know it was Bryan. Well, anyway. But the more the months have gone by, the more I keep thinking about the Courtney B. Vance performance in OJ. I think it's a really tight race.
But just to give some background, so Bryan Cranston's playing Lyndon Johnson. He won a Tony for this a couple of years ago. It's a TV movie, and which pretty much universally we're saying it's going to win Best TV Movie. There's very, very few television films made these days.
Right. He'll win the Emmy for that because he's a producer. So let's just give him an Emmy for that part of it, and give Courtney the Emmy for acting.
And then now Courtney Vance playing another real life person, Johnny Cochran, and again, it's funny, the TV movie versus then the limited series. Cranston has 2 hours, Courtney Vance has 10. If you're watching it, I mean, it's such a compelling performance. Tom, you knew Johnny Cochran.
I met him a couple times.
Yeah. What did you make of the Courtney Vance portrayal?
Oh boy, he really nailed it. Yeah. My guy was really, really impressive. Yeah. And you thought he was Cochran, and but if you win by rooting factors, you're not necessarily rooting for Johnny Cochran in a snaky way. You are, of course. That may be a drawback for him, but it was. They love famous people who successfully impersonate other famous people and get absorbed in that. Mm-hmm. They're suckers for it at the Hollywood Awards, including the Oscars. Bryan Cranston certainly achieves that in a magnificent way with Lyndon Johnson, but he's won a billion Emmys, and it's like been there, done that. Courtney Vance was the big, delightful surprise here. Everyone thought Cuba Gooding Jr. would be the lead star of that mini that we'd all be talking about for an acting performance, and it turns out to be Courtney, and his buzz keeps generating more and more and more.
And he won a Tony Award a couple of years ago when he was in a play with Tom Hanks. But nobody expected that.
Yes. So we underestimated him. Okay. Yeah.
Well, something else at the end of the 60 years plus is courtroom speeches, impassioned courtroom speeches. And Courtney gets several of those.
We haven't talked about Night Manager. That was really well received. It was a cool mini. It'll certainly be nominated. Tom Hiddleston, I think, can be thankful that his whole romance with Taylor Swift kind of started making headlines just at the end of Emmy voting there. Those last couple of days, it was starting to hit the primetime news shows and the tabloids. He'll be nominated. That Emmy darling, Idris Elba, you can count on him getting in there. And then we've got Oscar Isaac for Show Me a Hero, Patrick Wilson, Fargo, and then we got the Dresser guys, Anthony Hopkins and Ian McKellen, and then Benedict Cumberbatch always gets in. That's too many people, Paul.
That's what Chris said.
Yeah.
Maybe put it on somebody. If people could mute themselves.
Okay. I'll mute mine.
You go in and Paul, help us with this category.
Oh well, I think that what's so interesting is that you would have thought when they announced the Dresser with Sir Anthony Hopkins and McKellen, it would have been just a given. Yeah. But what it is that it came out last fall in England and just didn't quite take off. It was on Stars this spring, but it was interesting in England. They put Ian McKellen at the BAFTAs in supporting, which I don't think was right. I mean, when it was a film in the early '80s, both Albert Finney and Tom Courtenay were both up in lead. But it's a very well-made film that it's set in the '40s and feels like it could have been made back then. It doesn't have the contemporary feel of the O.J. story or of even All the Way might be set in the '60s, but it feels very fresh when you watch it.
I think everyone is underestimating Benedict Cumberbatch and his buddy Martin Freeman in the supporting race. These guys won 2 years ago out of nowhere. No one was predicting them to win. And I know Martin Freeman had the Fargo thing. He was in Fargo and Sherlock. But if you're not predicting those two, you may want to rethink that. But predictions.
But in this instance, Sherlock, it was a one-off that was fairly viewed as, it was disappointing to the fans. And it is a couple of years later, and the buzz is sort of dying down. I mean, when they won, it was at the height of Sherlock mania. So I'm not quite sure on that score. I think they won for an individual film, but there were 3 that aired. This time it was just the one film. That's it.
But this is the first film, like they took a year off, so this is the first time they've been back at the Emmys. So we know what the Emmys like to do. They like to just reward the same person over and over and over again. So I don't know.
You say it's a bad thing. It makes it easier to predict.
Yeah.
This might be the most stacked category of actual contender, like people that you would say. I mean, you could take the 6 that actually get nominated on Thursday morning,
and
replace them with the 6 that you had like next in your top 12, and not bat an eye, because we just named 12 men who normally Anthony Hopkins and Ian McKellen would get in any other year. Right. Patrick Wilson would get in any other year, and I don't have any of those 3 getting nominated.
Right. What about you, Daniel?
I'm sort of fluctuating. I have a similar issue with this category where I have to choose people to be snubbed who would easily be nominated last year, any other year. So at the moment I've got Wilson in there. I think Fargo is strong enough. Obviously Cranston and Vance. I've got Cumberbatch in there 2 years after they not only won 2 years ago, but Sherlock was the biggest Emmy winner of any program in any genre 2 years ago with 7 awards. So I think there's still enough support there for it. I've got Oscar Isaac in there, thinking, Show Me a Hero didn't have a lot of people watching it, but he's got Star Wars, and it's the HBO factor. It's got the prestige. And then I've actually got Cuba Gooding Jr. in there at the moment, thinking that if People versus O.J. Simpson is a juggernaut, then O.J. Simpson himself might just be an automatic checkmark.
But Idris Elba, I mean, he's still winning awards off of his Oscar snub, so I don't know how he's not going to get in there. And I've got Tom Hiddleston in, so I think Hiddleston's probably my weakest because I think Night Manager gets in and maybe some other technical stuff. With all these great men as contenders, I'm not sure that he's going to get in. But he's another film star. Almost everybody we've named, other than Courtney, I mean, even Bryan Cranston these days is a film star. So they're all film stars, and that's why it's so hard to pick here. I would be very thrilled if they'd expand or somehow have a close enough vote that 7 or 8 of these guys made it in because it's a really deserving.
And this whole idea that if someone wins a Tony and then they come to TV and they're going to automatically win an Emmy, I don't think that exists anymore because who was it? Cicely Tyson for Trip to Bountiful? We were all 100% of the experts and the editors were all thinking she would win, and I forget who she even lost to. Was it Jessica Lange?
Mm-hmm.
Out of nowhere? So I don't know if Audra McDonald and Bryan Cranston are as much of a lock because of the Tony factor.
Oh, it's not that because they won the Tony. It's just that there's obviously something really juicy about the role. That's why with Cranston versus say Audra McDonald, it was more of a concert with some talk in between. But what about so if we move to featured supporting? Excuse me, I'm on Tony talk now. He's calling supporting featured. On supporting actor, Daniel, we're talking about OJ. I mean, the fellow that played Chris Darden, Sterling K. Brown, he's sort of discovered, right? I mean, this is one of the first things he's done, and I mean, to cap it off with an Emmy, which most of the experts are saying, do you think that's going to happen?
I don't know. I think even more supporting actor in a movie or miniseries, for me, that's even harder to pick than lead actor because I feel like there are not only so many contenders, but there are so many projects that could stack this category with 4 or 5 nominees potentially, like pull a Normal Heart. We could, the bench is that deep on The People versus O.J. Simpson with Nathan Lane and John Travolta also. Fargo, I think got 4 supporting actor nominations at the Critics' Choice Awards. That if they love Fargo, that show can stack the deck. All the Way has a lot of supporting men. So I mean, you could replace my top 6 with another top 6. And it would be entirely equally plausible.
But Critics' Choice had a very abbreviated period because they combined with Film Awards, so it was only a few months worth of programs. Not to take anything away from those nominations, but just to explain them. What about you, Chris? Where do you see this race going?
I agree with Daniel in terms of, I mean, I'm kind of spreading my shows out, but I could see a case, if they just love people, I mean, it could have 3 or 4 slots. If they love Fargo, it could have 3 or 4 slots. I'm going more of a Sterling Brown being the only one from his show and Jesse Plemons being the only one from Fargo. And then after that, I think Hugh Laurie gets in, and I think he could actually win. I mean, think of all those years of not winning, and here he plays a villainous role. Frank Langella, who just won the Tony, he was the standout to me in All the Way. I think he could get in. Marcus and I have been talking about Dennis O'Hare. He's proven he can get into this category. Just in my 6th slot today, one project we haven't even talked about. Again, it can have a whole lot of slots. It used to. Roots. I've got Forrest Whitaker getting into supporting.
I absolutely agree with you, Chris. I'm glad you caught us up on that. I think Forrest Whitaker gets in. Let's talk about Roots. Of course, it set record after record at the Emmy Awards. The first miniseries, and then the second miniseries, Roots: The Next Generation, and it had this long, esteemed run initially. And so now that it's been remade, and remade very well, by the way, they put a lot of money and loving care and talent and everything into this remake. It's extremely well packaged. The problem is, of course, the thought you inevitably must have when even just accepting the whole idea that they would dare to remake Roots. But yet, of course, they have to remake Roots if you think about it, if they want the whole story to be embraced by a new generation, because we don't go back and we don't watch these things again. Shame on us as a nation and as a culture. So it was noble what they did. They handled it very well. They had a different director for each installment, and it was very, very smartly packaged. I think it would have benefited more from marquee names like Forrest Whitaker in there that could get the nominations. But of course, the showy roles go to young people that are unknown to the Emmy voters who are used to checking off these veterans' names. So I think the most likely to get checked off here is Forrest. I think he's irresistible. His role was really great, and it will certainly be nominated for limited series. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is a really tough category. I think there's really only two locks, and that's Hugh Laurie and Sterling K. Brown. I
John
think
Travolta's going to get nominated, you guys. You haven't even met. Oh, look at Paul making the face. What are you making a face of, Paul?
Sorry, I was trying to make the face that John Travolta's face is frozen into.
It really makes it. He's so, Shapiro was so creepy himself, and he really makes Shapiro all the more creepy.
Yeah, but
Marcus Sterling. I mean, I would not call Sterling Brown a lock. Nobody had ever heard of him before a few weeks ago. I would like to think so. I would like to think he could win. But like Tom says, especially in the movie mini categories, they often go with the people they've been familiar with for a long time. They just go for the bigger names. Now, you do have somebody like a Richard Cabral last year who got in, so that's very impressive.
Now it's interesting when Richard Cabral. What does his last name start with?
A C.
Right. And we were talking about this last year. Now they've upended it because we wrote about if you're towards the beginning of the alphabet, especially in these categories, you're more likely to get nominated. And this year, I guess they read Gold Derby and have altered it, so not everyone gets it. Because I'm thinking of Sterling K. Brown with a B, how he's at the top of the list.
And then someone we haven't talked about is someone. It gave one of the performances of the year, Connor Jessup, for American Crime, and I'm thinking kind of like when Finn Whitrock kind of burst out of the scene last year, and he's a younger guy, just like Connor is. They don't always go for the younger actors, but they did last year.
Yeah, no, this category is like at the Oscars. It's kind of maybe he gets the nomination. It's hard to get the win. It tends to be the veteran, Lifetime Achievement Award.
Mm-hmm. But I have Dennis O'Hare winning. I've had him winning since we opened the Prediction Center. I think he got in last year when no one was predicting him for Freak Show. He got in over Michael Chiklis.
He ain't winning. He deserves to win, but he won't win.
We shall see.
Well, supporting actress is a lock. That's the only one of the four. Jean Smart is winning that, no question about it.
Yeah.
Who else is in? Size up that category for us, Chris.
Well, when you get beyond her, it's not so hard to size up. Let me pull it up on my screen.
Oh no, that's not now, Chris. I mean, first of all, I agree with you about Jean Smart, and she's somebody who just keeps reinventing herself. She won a couple of guest comedy actress Emmys for Frasier. Then she was beyond brilliant on 24 as the wife of the president. But you got lots of have you got Regina King back?
I just meant it's I don't see anybody else. I can't. It's a good group of ladies, but I can't imagine anybody beating her.
Regina King could win again, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm. We didn't expect Regina King to win last year, and also, Melissa Leo in All the Way is extremely. Again, the cachet of the Oscar-winning winner coming and doing television. Lots of women from Roots, perhaps. Kathy Bates, who won, is back again, probably. It's I don't know. This category has had surprises in the past. I think it'd be great if Jean Smart won, but I'm not sure it's the lock that you're saying.
Well, when Regina won, I didn't feel like, even though a lot of us were predicting Sarah, it was such an topsy-turvy category. I don't think anybody was really a front runner. Right. And with Jean being the front runner and having all the other pluses of her past Emmy history, she's a veteran. She's in a program that's either going to be first or second in voting for limited series. The other one I was going to mention, beyond all the ones you just mentioned, was Olivia Colman. I've got her getting in. I've got her in like my 5th slot, but she was so good in Night Manager. Yeah,
no, and it was somebody who took a British actress and has had a great run recently at the BAFTAs, the British version of the Emmys, and winning a couple in 1 year, just a couple of years ago, and really just a lovely person, but completely unknown here. So I think that is going to hurt her.
And I know who you were referring to earlier when you mentioned Grease. Who would you love to be in this category from Grease?
Oh, well, Vanessa Hudgens, whose father passed away just hours before the show went live, and she played Rizzo, who we know from the film Stockard Channing's role. And just the show must go on. I mean, it would just be, it's not going to probably happen, but it would just be lovely if she got an Emmy nomination for that. I mean, just because she did, it was a shock to read it the next morning because her performance was so flawless. I mean, she was really wonderful in the role, and it's a great role.
It's a really juicy role.
Yeah. The bad girl who's sort of really not a bad girl, but it was great, and she was great in it.
Anika Noni Rose is really good in Roots.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I have her in my predictions. She was. I think there was confusion for a while. Some people had her in lead, some had her in supporting.
Well, they were confused themselves because every time I would get another memo from History Channel, they would be moving her. So they swapped her around several times before they finally settled on supporting.
Daniel, did you do all the webcam chats with the Roots?
I believe so. I did 5 of the cast members. And Anika Noni Rose is definitely. I hope Emmy voters watched that interview because I absolutely loved doing that interview. She was amazing. But she's also the reason they were confused about leader supporting is she's the most prominent woman in the entire miniseries. And it's sort of hard to designate because it's a generational storyline. So a couple of the lead actors come and go. They're in 2 episodes, then they're gone, or they don't come in until episode 3. So she is in I think 2 or 3 episodes, and she's definitely the most prominent woman. So she's definitely borderline. If anyone of the Roots women gets in, I think it's her, because she also has, she's done a lot of TV. She's been on The Good Wife. She has the Tony Award. The cachet. So I feel like she's the likeliest of the Roots women to probably be nominated.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to make a change then. You've actually I had Emma Yahtzee in that 6th slot, so I'll put Anika in there.
Anika, yeah, definitely. Okay, it's a wrap. We've been doing this marathon all for many hours. I liked Chris's wisecrack that we could submit ourselves for best miniseries. There's still time. Everybody, get your update your Emmy predictions. Thursday morning, 8:30 Pacific time is when they get announced. And good luck to you to us all with our predictions at Gold Derby. Thanks.